Every morning the world starts quietly, one soft light at a time. Homes flicker awake, shops open. People take those first small steps into a brand new day. And in all of that ordinary movement, there's something kind of extraordinary. A moment worth noticing, a spark you feel before you even name it. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's small, but kindness shows up right on time. And every morning we choose to show up with you so we can look for that spark together.
Good morning. I'm Matt Roof, the Uncommon Kindness Guy, and this is Kindness Rising. Let's rise together.
As always, right here, 7:30 a.m. Eastern, I am here, Kindness Rising. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Kindness Rising. Today's episode includes a 347-year-old law and a surprisingly modern question. What happens when people stop being heard? Because today we're talking about voice, dignity, justice, systems, fairness, and of course, kindness. And no, this is not a law school podcast. It is the place to come to talk about habeas corpus. Habeas corpus, not a progressive metal band or a skin cream, a foundational idea that basically says, hey, you can't just lock people away and refuse accountability. A tiny detail, minor civilization upgrade, plus our who in the world today, a mystery figure, a poet, a political exile, and a tourism director. So let's rise. Good morning, Roseanne, Kathleen, and Jess. The crew is assembling. I am so glad you are all here this morning as we get up and get going on Wednesday morning. Days are flying by. Absolutely. Welcome to Kindness Rising. Today is an interesting episode related to the idea that we can't be held beyond our will, right? You know what's interesting? Most of us will hopefully never experience that. Unlawful imprisonment by a government. That was pretty ideal, but a whole lot of us do know what it feels like to be trapped. Trapped somewhere we didn't choose, inside of a misunderstanding, a workplace, a grief, paperwork, bureaucracy, something that doesn't align with who we are, somebody else's assumptions about who we are, and maybe one of the hardest versions of all, trying to explain yourself and realizing nobody is actually listening. That feeling is brutal, because human beings can survive difficult circumstances longer than we can tolerate feeling invisible. Welcome into Kindness Rising. Get involved in the chat. Say hello in the comments, just like Mike Sullivan, just like Jess, just like Roseanne, just like Kathleen, the whole crew coming out. I see you out there. Make yourself known in the chat. Make yourself known. You shall have the body if you make yourself known in the chat. You shall have the body. That's literally the translation of habeas corpus, roughly. It sounds strange. Sounds mildly threatening if you take it out of context, but the idea mattered. Authorities couldn't just make somebody disappear indefinitely when habeas corpus was first codified into law. Bring the person forward, produce them, explain why they're there, submit to accountability. Somebody has to listen, and that feels bigger than law. It feels like leadership, relationships, parenting, teams, kindness. Kindness isn't always agreement. It's it isn't pretending difficult conversations don't exist. It just sounds like, come on forward. Tell us what happened. You have the right and deserve to be heard in a world that moves fast, labels quickly, and judges instantly. That may be more radical than we realize. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me here. I hope everyone's having a great day today. Get involved in the chat as we work through our agenda today on habeas corpus. You just never know what you're going to wake up to on Kindness Rising. legal, entertainment. Who knows? Music, who knows? Definitely the coolest community going out there. Good morning, Roseanne. I already said good morning to you. You said good morning twice, Mom. You must really want me to have a good morning. I hope you guys are doing really, really well out there and excited for an awesome day. All right. So let's get into our who's who. I know that's what everybody is waiting for. I know it. I know it. I know it. I know it. So let's get to our first clue without any further ado. Today's mystery person, a birthday from way back when in ancient time, not ancient times, but I'm giving you a clue. Political conflict forced me into exile, where I created my most notable work. So we're dealing with a creator way back when, connected to habeas corpus. Wow. Okay. Awesome. I wrote a paper recently on why it's unfair to present an accused person in jail dress instead of street clothes. Interesting. Interesting. That is definitely has to impact the jury's influence. Absolutely. Appreciate it. All right. Political conflict forced me into exile, where I created my most notable work. Jess just read the Divine Comedy. That's interesting. John. John who? John the Baptist? John who? Who's John? John had political conflict, forced into exile, and created the most notable work. All right. We've got a guess of Dante. Dante Bichette? No, Dante. I don't know. The Divine Comedy, and John. I don't know. Tell me, who's John, Kathleen? Well, I work up my kindness spotlight, because we always spotlight. Always. Get used to it. Here comes the drop on the spotlight. Today's kindness spotlight goes out to an organization that knows a little bit about habeas corpus, right? It's called the Innocent Project. Innocence. Innocence Project. Here they are. That's where I wanted to start. The Innocence Project. This one connects deeply to today's theme. It works to overturn wrongful convictions through DNA evidence, legal advocacy, investigative work, and criminal justice reform. And here's the sobering reality. Hundreds of people have been exonerated. Some spent years and decades even imprisoned for their crimes that they didn't commit. Birthdays missed, families changed, careers lost, entire chapters of people's lives gone. And you cannot refund time, but their work at the Innocence Project reminds us of something important. Justice isn't about punishment. It's a process of accountability, review, humility, and humans can get things wrong. And so today's spotlight isn't about easy answers. It's about human dignity. It's about refusing to let people disappear inside of systems. And honestly, that sounds pretty connected back to England in 1679. So there's your connection to habeas corpus, the Innocence Project. Check them out if it's something that moves you. Freeing innocent, prevent wrongful convictions, and create fair, compassionate, and equitable systems for justice for everyone. That's the Innocence Project. All right. There's your spotlight for today. What's going on? We wouldn't know his DOB anyway. I have no idea who that is, John of Patmos. That sounds fascinating. This is why it's important to protect evidence that's been collected. Technological advances can show mistakes that were made. Absolutely. Tons of bias in our systems, tons of political pressure, right? Of course, I always think of the Reuben Carter case. That's the one that was most known to me. Like the first time I was like, wait a second, they can get it wrong, right? When Bob Dylan sang about the hurricane. Yeah, pretty fascinating stuff. Absolutely. All right. So enough of Bob Dylan, and it's not the story of the hurricane. Fascinating story, and a great movie, by the way. If you ever want to enjoy a great performance, Denzel Washington as Reuben Carter, the Hurricane. I think it was called Hurricane, right? Side note on that. Fascinating performance and story of Reuben Carter. All right. Are you ready for your second clue? Are you ready for your second clue? Your first clue today. Political conflict forced me into exile, where I created my most notable work. I'm thinking that this one might be the one that gives it away if someone hasn't already guessed it today. But let me see if I can find it. All right. Clue number 2. We're rocking with clue number 2. I created a guided tour for a really hot neighborhood. A guided tour of a really hot neighborhood. I was sent into exile. Wow. And guided tour of a hot neighborhood. All right. I feel like I might have to start making these even harder. I thought that was a hard one. You guys are just too smart. Just too much knowledge amongst this crew. All right. Bob Dylan, absolutely. A worldscape. Oh, interesting idea, right? Creating universes, ideas of intertwined stories in a worldscape. Interesting. Jerry Ginger's in the house. Jerry Ginger knows about habeas corpus. Produced the gingerbread, Jerry. Ideas, of course, yes. So did Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan did that too, created a whole world of ideas, and so does Jerry Ginger. Yep. Okay, let's get back to habeas corpus. That was fun for a second here. Moving on. All right, or wait, that happened today. May 27th, 1679. You guys remember that, right? Yeah. I think Howard Cosell covered this. Habeas Corpus Act passes in England. And honestly, this is one of the stories that's more important than the name makes it sound. Habeas corpus. Because many modern legal protections, governments and rulers could, before that, governments and rulers could exercise pretty frightening levels of power. Political rivals, critics, convenient problems, put them away, imprison them, no recourse. Habeas Corpus Act strengthened legal protections against unlawful detention. Courts gained stronger authority to demand the answers. Show us the person, explain what you did, justify why you're holding this person. Not just endless disappearing. Whoops, somebody disappeared. We said so. No unlimited because we said so. 17th century England suddenly transformed into a perfect justice system. Of course, it's perfect now. We have habeas corpus. Not really. History is messy, always, but this became one of the foundational building blocks. Foundational building blocks of our constitutional law, our civil liberties, our due process protection, and democratic legal thinking around the world. And this is why it matters here on Kindness Rising. Power matters, systems matter, rules matter, but accountability matters too, because dignity grows where people have pathways to be seen, heard, questioned, challenged, and participate. It's not softness, it's basically civilization. That is habeas corpus. Today, May 27th, 1679, Habeas Corpus Act passes over there in jolly England. We certainly brought it into our justice systems, and yes, of course, there are many miscarriages of justice where habeas corpus might be suspended. Habeas corpus actually, technically, constitutionally, has been suspended 4 times in the United States. 4 times that Congress and our leadership has suspended habeas corpus, meaning anyone could be detained for any reason, and that was built into the laws. The suspension of habeas corpus was certainly built into the law by our founders here in the U.S. to ensure that people got a fair shot, but also the ability to suspend it, put in there in case of emergency. In case of emergency, break glass and suspend habeas corpus. Hi, naked. Lucas Gamer, I'm not naked. I'm fully dressed. You're naked? All right. More power to you, Lucas Gamer 123. Hi, naked. Hey, can't love and you love. Be kind, rewind. Let's do one of those. We haven't done one of those in a while. Let's do a be kind, rewind before our final clue in our who's who, even though I think we're already headed in the right direction of knowing. Hej från Sweden. All right, Johan Perdal, welcome in, and W. Lenda. I am so glad you guys are here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Come here, 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. I don't know what time it is in Sweden. I don't know what time it is in naked time for Lucas Gamer. And W. Landa, where you coming in from? But it's 7:30 a.m. here on the East Coast of the United States, where I am coming from, and I am just glad you joined. Jerry, you are a corpus. Welcome in, Jess. I appreciate you welcoming everybody in the crowd. Jess. All right. Jess, you will. Okay. All right. We did. What is wrong with my brain? Where am I? All right, bear with me, folks, because I'm trying to get to my Be Kind rewind, but I didn't select a song for it, but I want one. Let's go with this one. We haven't listened to this one in a while. Anyone out there, listen to this music for a second. Tell me where it might have been influenced from, and then we'll get into our Be Kind rewind. Timelines don't really match, but we'll go with it anyway. It sounds slightly like a theme from a awesome TV show. All right, this is our Be Kind rewind, not connected to the theme song I'm playing right now, but it is taking us back to 1993, 1993. Wow, seems like a while ago. There was a guy, Harrison Ford, running for his life, Tommy Lee Jones running after him, and Gen X collectively learning. Probably should avoid one-armed men. The Fugitive, absolute classic. Train crash, damn jump, hospital chase scene, and one of the great movie exchanges of the late 20th century. I didn't kill my wife, which honestly might be one of the most brutally efficient pieces of dog dialogue ever written. I didn't kill my wife. I don't care. But underneath the action movie, that's actually a surprisingly deep connection on today's theme. Dr. Richard Kimball is convicted of murdering his wife. The legal process has already happened. The machinery has already moved. The label has been applied. Guilty. Case closed, except he insists the system got it wrong. And suddenly we're dealing with a question that humans have wrestled with for centuries. What happens when someone says, I think you got the wrong person? That's where today's history connection gets fascinating. Of course, the core idea of habeas corpus. You can't simply lock people away indefinitely without explanation, without a review, without a chance to challenge. Bring the person forward, present the case, answer the question, and now The Fugitive isn't a courtroom documentary. There are significantly more explosions. Emotionally, the movie taps into something deeply human. The fear of not being believed. Absolutely. Don't we all have that fear a little bit? When human beings are reduced to labels without a voice. Absolutely. Civilization advances when power becomes accountable and systems leave room for challenge. And when human beings aren't labeled without a voice. That was a little clunky there at the end, but we're talking about The Fugitive. You guys remember the movie The Fugitive? Sounds like a little bit of a 90s pop hit. Kinda. Jerry, you got to run off? Okay. Cool. I'm glad you stopped in, Jerry. You're awesome. Thanks for stopping in and bringing your crew. I'll be looking out for your live walk-in chat this afternoon, later today, whatever it might be. Anyway, Jess, no, 90s pop hit, kind of feels a little 90s pop hit. It was actually supposed to be more from the 80s. Time that we grew up, a show that I think was probably one of the best shows ever made, in my opinion. Cut Short. Judd Apatow introduced us to Seth Rogen and Linda Cardellini and a couple of other major stars. Freaks and Geeks, great show. If you haven't checked it out, that was supposed to be a semi. You never saw, Kathleen, you've never seen Freaks and Geeks? I encourage you to check it out. You want a teenage drama in the 80s. After having read most of your book, I haven't finished it yet, Kathleen, but I have read about that, maybe 2/3 of it at this point. I pick it up, put it down, pick it up, read a little story. I enjoy your stories and insight into who you are. It's amazing that you create and express that way. The best. Oh, see, Jess, you know, when he sits down at that kit, the Rush kit, that's awesome. The Neil Peart kit. Yeah. Neil Peart. Yeah. Great stuff. Great show. I showed my kids. They were enthralled with it too. I loved that. I loved sharing that. Oh, no, The Fugitive. Kathleen, you've never seen The Fugitive? It's a good movie. It's a good, entertaining movie. Good movie. But it definitely connected to our subject today. All right. Without further yakety yak, let's do it. Jess jumped the gun on us on the first clue, but here we go. We'll give it the third clue. Jess is going to win the prize for the early answer. I'm still going to go through the motions here. His master's piece explained hell, purgatory, and paradise in change litter for Eder. Do you think you have it? Yes, Jess had it. It's Dante Alighieri. That's my way of trying to pronounce it in Italian. I don't know how to say Alighieri. Is it Alighieri? People say Alighieri. Dante Alighieri. I don't think that's it. I think it's Dante Alighieri. There we go. There you go. You got an accent out of me, Jess. If you guessed Dante just like Jess did, you are right. Best known for the Divine Comedy, one of literature's most enduring journeys through hell, purgatory, and paradise. But here's a fascinating piece about it. I think Jess can tell us. Jess knows. He lived in political turmoil, involved in conflict in France, and eventually exiled from his own home city. He couldn't safely return. He lost his home, he lost his status, he lost his belonging. And suddenly, a writer wrestling with justice, suffering, morality, power, and redemption starts making a whole lot more sense, because some of history's most powerful reflections on systems and humanity came from somebody who knew what displacement actually felt like. Absolutely. What do you think Dante's book pitch would be? If he had to go to a publisher and say, what's his book pitch? Yeah, that was the inspiration, right, Jess? Being exiled. Absolutely. All right. Any more ideas on Dante? Jess, you obviously you just read Divine Comedy, so that's pretty amazing. I appreciate anyone who's willing to take on works of classic literature. I'd say that's pretty classic literature, right? I mean, that is super classic literature. I prefer classic literature from the 20th century. I like early 20th century. Right now. I'm rereading because I haven't read it since high school. The Once and Future King. Oh, nice. I like that, Jess. Researching where the ideas of hell came from. Most signs point to Dante's Inferno. Okay, absolutely. That image, right? Biblical, epic image of burning in hell. Well, I'm trying to think of what's interesting about Dante's Inferno. Dante's Inferno, the inspiration for this is what I think. Probably has been proven too, right? Doesn't Dante doesn't he have guides on his journeys? I forget. These are character people who guide him along his journeys. Was a woman and some. I should know, but I don't. Do we think that's the influence for A Christmas Carol, right? Ghosts and guides to show you the way things could be or have been. Maybe. I think it's a mechanism. Anyway, that's it. There are several characters that leave him along the way. Yeah. All right. Well, I know, like I said, I know enough about just about a lot of things just to be dangerous. I certainly am not a 17th century or 17th century. No, way earlier than that. 13th century. Wait a second. Jess, we were just talking about Dylan. Who was talking about Dylan? I just had a moment. It actually made me sneeze. Bob Dylan, Tangled Up in Blue, written by an Italian poet from the 13th century. Was that referring to Dante? I have to look. I don't know. Just I have to look into that one. Every one of those words rang true. All right, let's get to it. We can talk about Tangled Up in Blue, Bob Dylan, and Dante some more after I roll into my kindness compass, because it's part of my mission. My mission here to deliver content that helps people. Practical kindness compass. 5 things you can do this week to claim your habeas corpus. I don't know. Claim yourself. Make yourself known. Practice a small-scale habeas corpus. Before reacting, before labeling, ask someone to explain themselves. Notice the invisible bureaucracy. Who around you is struggling inside a system that nobody else sees? Sometimes kindness starts with the hidden friction. Number 3, listen before labeling. Assumptions can become emotional handcuffs, but curiosity opens doors. Don't forget to use your voice for somebody with less access to power. That's huge. Advocacy doesn't always require a courtroom. Sometimes it's just a meeting, a check-in, and a willingness to say, actually, let me hear you out. And lastly, challenge your own internal prisons. Where are you still holding yourself under old accusations, old failures, old stories? Maybe some parts of your own life deserve a fair hearing too. Treat yourself well out there. Let's get this crap off the screen. This is awesome. It isn't about him, but does reference. Right. Yes. Tangled Up in Blue. Okay. So that is a, Jess, that's what I was trying to get to. The 13th century poet must be a reference to Dante, right? There are probably others, but an Italian poet from the 13th century. I don't know. Okay, that's it. That's awesome. I'm going to go listen to some Tangled Up in Blue, although I will tell you, I am partial to the Jerry Garcia band versions of Tangled Up in Blue, and also the Indigo Girls do a pretty bang-up job with that song. Absolutely. All right. You guys are awesome. I hope everybody has a great day. We did habeas corpus today. Sometimes being heard is the first step towards being free. So thanks for spending your morning with me right here on Mornings in the Lab. Get on over and see Mornings in the Lab with Keith, John, and friends. Keep showing up right here to Kindness Rising, 7:30 a.m. Staying curious, multiplying kindness, and unlocking growth. And as always, please, everyone out there, yes, Dylan was an amazing songwriter, is an amazing songwriter. We'll talk about more about Dylan tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern, right here on Kindness Rising. Until then, stay uncommon and stay kind.